So I wanted to talk about system communication, kind of how we've built it, because it used to be a lot fucking worse for us to try and be in the same place at once, for us to try to have a conversation, to literally communicate in any way was a real fucking challenge. And it's a lot smoother now. And I want to just start with maybe a timeline of like where it started when we started trying, and then to now.
There is the charm.
I hope so. I hope so. So, back in 2019, 2020, first starting therapy slash we hadn't started it yet, like those sort of days. And it was more like I'd just either be inside for days, as a lot of parts of me, some parts of me were stuck inside. Um, some parts of me were still trauma locked, and then the host parts of me were just blank time. So like, whenever you took the front, I would just blink, and we would go from a day in a situation to me coming round and gaining like a feeling of existence, like waking up, but doing something or standing up, or like it was very fucking disorientating. And there was only like one or two parts of me that could be near you and kind of near the front at the same time as you, because we're like one part of you and then another part to another part of you, because a decade slash lifetime of in and out practice. Man, it was difficult to quantify. Well, I know we started with leaving each other journal notes. I know that was a thing for a while, like for quite a while. Like whenever I had fun, I would just kind of try to bullet journal. In those days, it was like it was a real pain in the ass to journal at first, because dyslexia, and it's just when we had that many crushing symptoms and no coping skills, it was a fucking struggle to stay alive. So journaling was really hard, and all I would do is do like one or two lines of bullet journal of like, this is what my day has looked like, this is what I've done, and then you take over and kind of do the same. And occasionally we'd leave notes for each other, be like, this needs to be done.
And I tell you to go fuck yourself.
A little bit sometimes. And then then we'd have it like, that was quite a while, actually. That was quite a few months of just one or the other of us, and we could communicate inside between some parts of us, but as the host parts of me, there was like three parts of you that I could engage with, that there was like a decade of practice engaging with, but somehow I knew you in those parts, and the cognitive dissonance was wild, because my brain in the host parts of me was not like, yeah, I have the idea. It was like, yeah, this is a random person who possesses my body, who I share a body with, or I'll never think about it, but just therefore at least I could engage. But in that part of you, you kind of had to like be a middleman for every other part of you and pass messages back and forth, because I I just had such like limited access and communication to anyone else in the system, and it was fucking trippy. It's like I'd just wake up and things would be different, things would be moved, the journal would have handwriting that wasn't mine, Playlists would have been updated, created, changed, art would have appeared. Empty whiskey bottles would be lying around. There'd be other things which we'll do separate videos about because they'd need heavy trigger warnings, but like a lot of stuff just was happening around me, and I was kind of going in and out of like near dormancy, dormancy in some host parts. I think a host part was dormant over this time. It was really fucking hard actually to like witness the system or see anyone moving around and accept it as the hosting parts of me. So it was really like the caretaker parts of me and the part of me that was a persecutor. Maybe some animal alters. Those parts could engage a bit more. And so in those parts we'd be like writing notes to each other and leaving them to be read when the next person fronted. That was like as good as it got, really. And then after like quite a while of doing that, in one part of me to a few parts of you, I developed the ability to be co-conscious, which is not the same as being at the front at the same time, but like I could sit in the van just by the front in the inner world while you fronted, and I could watch what you were doing, but I couldn't get near the front. And if we did it in reverse, so I was in the front, you coming near the front would like space me out or would push me out. And then that was like day in, day out, a few weeks or months maybe again of doing that. And the more experiences because it started that there were live streams that we both wanted to be able to be around at the same time, and then like going on walks and skateboarding with Ryan through the countryside, and we both wanted to be able to do that at once. And then art, so it happened that there were things we both were really trying to ground into, and that kind of made it a little bit easier in some parts. Then I fused again between host parts and caretaker parts, and like any fucking progress we'd made, being able to be near each other at the same time in the front was like so taken back, so blanked out, because there was like this dynamic where either parts of me would get pushed out or we'd get pushed away from each other for like a long time. And during that time we discovered that
I don't mind, but thanks for checking.
we discovered that communicating via music was a really good way to communicate, because the host parts of me really struggled to engage at all in the inner world. So conversations inside were really fucking difficult. They triggered denial really badly, or I just couldn't really go inside. I couldn't really access anything. I couldn't really engage or clearly see or hear the inner world. And fusing between those parts of me made it like really hard to do that at all, even in parts of me that had formerly lived in the inner world a lot. So that was fucking weird and kind of depressing. And it ruled out like communication. So then a lot of the time I could speak out loud here, and sometimes I could hear you inside, but whenever I did, it was really vague. I wasn't quite sure if I was hearing you, and then that would trigger denial, and I'd have like these massive spirals, and then I'd be able to hear you even less, and it would just push us apart more. So what we ended up doing instead was we had a playlist. I think
That was Kyrie and Valentine at the time, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I think that was where it started, where we worked out that if I was fronting for a few days, I could save what I wanted to say. I'd like find a song that expressed what I was trying to communicate, the concept I was working through, the questions I wanted to ask, the memories that were on my mind. Like there was so much that we could communicate and that could be meaningful about the music. So I could save a song to a playlist, and you could save a song to a playlist and respond. And through doing this, we realized that parts of us had always done this, but the host parts of me had never realized that parts of us had been communicating like this. It would just, in the host part of me, it would just present as, oh, I really want to listen to this song from Linkin Park. Oh, now I have this really strong urge to listen to this Evanescence song. Oh, now I really need to listen to this. And I'd be playing them back and forth in the way that I realized we started doing in the playlist, and was like, oh shit, if I remember the order of these songs and I play them now, they make an absolutely clear fucking conversation about stuff that was going on at the time. And I'm like, oh shit. So that was like really cool to rediscover and also really helpful.
Apart from one of the really interesting things about how trauma brains work that we started to discover at the time, which is that we can make assumptions and we can make them incorrectly.
That was fun.
You could save a song and I could be confused about how you meant something or the meaning of it. We could come to different conclusions about what one another was saying, which led to a lot of conversations seriously derailing into, I would say now, both of us getting triggered and pushing each other away, but at the time was just like straight up attacking one another. Leaving questions for clarity in the journal. A lot of the time, I could interpret something that you'd saved as a lot more against me than you meant it.
Or a lot of the time, to be fair, like, I I was kind of, when you got triggered and you responded in a way that was defensive or protective.
Defensive and protective as a persecutor could have been just straight up abuse at you, to your credit.
Well, I could say the same, since there were like multiple parts of us at this point in this conversation saving songs.
Which we also didn't know in a lot of parts of us at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a miracle actually that we made any headway at all.
We kept ending up arguing and ignoring the fuck out of each other, or I think that might have been one of the things where I just ripped your book to shreds because I was pissed off, and a few other things that were very, very healthy.
No, but it's like because I would send such mixed messages, and then I'd freak the fuck out because I'd check the playlist and I'd see that I had saved songs that I didn't realize I'd saved or didn't remember saving, but in response to you, and I'd be like, what is going on? What am I even saying here? And that was before we realized that we had subsystems and that we were switching within ourselves as well as with each other and other people in the wider system. So it was like conversations could have like complete 180s and could be very confusing.
And were very volatile and intense because trauma, so
there was a lot of cycling and repeated conversations where we'd hit the same sticking point and be like, what the fuck? And it would explode. And slowly over time, kind of the frustration of being like, I'm so confused right now, prompted us to like try harder. So we'd both start doing things like trying to ground to the body at once. It would give us like a really, really bad headache. It would feel like something was dangerously strained in my brain and like it could snap if I did something wrong. So I'd have to like back off a lot, and sometimes I just couldn't, it's like I couldn't work out how to get near the front if you were in it at points. There was a lot, really. There was like there were a lot of things that made it really hard. And there was there was a lot of confusion, and trying to journal such massive questions, and like we didn't know how to communicate them, not with anyone. We didn't know how to be like, hey, I'm hearing this, what are you, am I understanding you? Like, that was a foreign concept. We would just make assumptions and not realize we were making them, and then get triggered by them and by the expectations that those assumptions made us feel like we had of each other.
That we did have of each other a lot of the fucking time as well. Not like we instilled them, but they were there. It's not unreasonable as an assessment of what was happening.
So it was really intense and really confusing. But we kept having them because being able to actually communicate with you even slightly was like more comforting and more relieving than anything I'd experienced. It was like this sense of wholeness that just kept making me want to understand what was happening. And then we started like kind of I remember I don't remember the exact first time, but I remember there being a period of time where like I zoned in and I'd like phase in and out in this really dissociative, distorting way, and I'd be like noticing that I couldn't control the body, but I could see you typing something into the search bar sometimes, and then I'd phase out again, and then I could hear the song, and like slowly I became more and more present while you were actually fronting and like able to see what you were sharing.
And then I'd get really fucking aggressive, not realise why, because we hadn't done any of the. I mean, fuck me, there was so much of the work to trigger management, to understanding what was going on for any of us. I didn't understand. As a design of safety, and also it's a little bit just the dismissive, avoidant way, I think, will be part of persecuted territory as well. Just how I've learned to be, that I didn't take well to people being able to observe anything going on for me. So, and also by design, you being present and able to share my experiences felt fucking wrong for a while. So there were a lot of barriers and a lot of obstacles that I had to manage internally to allow you to be able to be there. That was a rough fucking sticking point for a while, just letting you be able to be present.
Then oh shit, then there was this whole period of time where after learning how to ground through the senses and like really seriously practicing very fucking hard every day for like a solid amount of time, then we could kind of be there at the same time, and we could like slightly switch back and forth, but you'd be just right there. Like we'd be co-conscious, I guess, at that point, and then we could switch, which meant we could only do it so many times. So we could only like share so many songs in a night like that, because I'd get a headache if we switched too much, even if it was literally just you being there, like just a slight switch to get more in the front than the other person. But that was a while. And then there was a while where we could, after like a serious fuck ton of work, and it was very constant because it was like so many things would push me out, so we both had to like really work to be able to stay in the front. Then we could, both control the body, both be in the front at once, but still had seriously limited internal communication. So like I couldn't feel what you were feeling. I couldn't hear what you were thinking. I I could just about maybe hear you inside, but it was like sketchy and muffled and it would change. And for some reason speaking out loud became easier, like because if I could access the vocal cords, I could keep myself grounded to the body by using the voice, and then you could do the same. So there was a period of time where we could like with quite a lot of strain and causing quite a lot of headaches and not being able to do it for like a long amount of time, but in sessions every day here and there we could oh, and playing, is it Halo online, because we both wanted to be able to do that as well. So there was like things we were doing that we were both kind of trying to be there at once, grounded too, and we were still communicating in music, but we could talk, but it was trippy as hell. It was like feeling the presence of another person in the room with me, but I would get social anxiety because you felt so completely foreign to me and like being observed by a complete stranger in some parts.
There was a long time, actually. We kept it like that for a very long fucking time. I think that felt safe to me. I quite I quite enjoyed the distance for a while. I wouldn't go back to it now. Wouldn't trade what we have now. Even for feeling safer, it was also far, far lonelier and far more distant.
There was an improvement though, because we at least could share a song, and I'd want to be like, okay, what do you mean by this bit here? But I'd have really bad social anxiety, and I would just feel too awkward or too much like, you know, talking to a person you're just getting to know. You don't want to fucking ask shit, or so it's like we were still responding to one another in a quite a guarded way, but we could talk, but we couldn't really like feel anything. So then I would get triggered at various things because like your tone could make me think you were angry.
When the fuck has my tone ever sounded like I am angry? Could. Fucking hell.
It didn't always, but it could.
At least tell me it was often.
It was often, yes. Like, fuck. So we we could I could talk, but then I would get triggered the same way as talking to a person outside of us, where like if you sounded angry, I would make the assumption about why, and I would be like, oh, you're definitely angry with me. My brain would fill in the gaps like the same way it does with the inner critic for other people, but with far less knowledge of what was going on for me or for you.
I was just generally, I think I was probably pissed off a lot of the time. Very fucking angry and aggressive at the barest concept of trying to let anyone fucking near me or get to know me in any way. So I was pissed off and at you, and quite a lot of the time. Just defensively, not because of anything you were doing wrong. But I did respond like everything you were doing was something wrong.
It was great for anxiety. Loved it. I don't blame you at all. Like, all joking aside, of course you fucking responded like that, and just That makes complete sense. You've been you've given me a lot of grace in the part of me that responded the same way.
No, because I had yours and Ryan's example of how you were understanding with me, how you saw that the anger was just protective. No, I was fucking volatile for a while there, especially any time I perceived us as getting any sort of connection or closeness. I would just try and make you back the fuck off immediately in panic. Of course, at the time, it felt like anger, didn't even feel like panic. It just felt really fucking pissed off at you for various reasons. I always felt right and entitled to act that way. It never occurred to me that I was being unreasonable.
I mean, yeah, look at our life, like, and when it was dealing with unsafe people, you kept it safe by keeping them away. So, and anyone trying to get to know you was only trying to gain information to weaponize later. Like, I don't blame you at all. I think for where you were coming from, for where we were both coming from, it wasn't unreasonable. It was, I think, completely fucking reasonable. Not saying that I deserved that at me, but I completely understand why both of us have at points responded like that. I don't see any other way we could ever have fucking learned to respond. We'd have periods because of this of like, if we'd have very surface level conversation a lot of the time, which I didn't mind. To be honest, it didn't feel like shallow having it. I still just enjoyed talking to you. But then,
anytime you even tried to express enjoying having a conversation with me, anything that was positive, really, checking if I was alright, and bring up any emotion to it. And at the lightest, it would be fuck off, we're not having a moment, and I would leave. Or I would be more triggered than that and respond very fucking aggressively.
or you'd get a little bit pissed off and I'd get triggered and try and fix how you were angry, which
would piss me off even fucking more, because I realise now I was just fucking heartbroken and really fucking angry, but not at you. Just that that's how you've been conditioned to behave. That our whole life, you've been taught to take responsibility for trying to fix someone's feelings like you could, like it was your responsibility.
And now I feel that grief and that rage with you, and it's really validating to hear it from you. Then I would have heard your tone and freaked out that it was like at me and me doing something wrong.
Which I would have also presented it like.
There's a lot of to and fro, push, pull, like implode, explode.
There's definitely a lot of attempting to understand each other and then absolutely fucking obliterating each other with arguing / being triggered. None of which was even vaguely our fault. I'm really fucking impressed with every past version of us. At every level, at every stage that we've managed to even attempt to communicate near as well as we did. And even at the time, I was always fucking impressed that you kept trying. Every single time I made your attempts to get to know me blow up in your fucking face. You know, I partially hoped I'd get the relief of being left alone again, and part of me was just terrified that I would finally have fucked up big enough, destroyed enough of your shit, punched enough holes in the wall, like, that I'd actually make you want to stop engaging. And every time I was fucking shocked, because You just came straight back. Didn't even take long. You try and work out what has happened.
You made that really easy. I don't blame you. None of these are shots.
They're fair shots. I'm not blaming myself either. I don't feel any. I think we did really fucking well. I don't think anyone could have done it better. I don't think we could have done it better. I'm just sort of horrified. This is how our experiences went. A lot of grief. Really impressed and grateful and relieved that you're so fucking stubborn. God damn.
I'm gonna pause this.
Yeah,